And with me is Stacie Medley. She is the Director of U.S. Media at Kimberly Clark. Hey, Stacie.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I last saw you in Montauk?
October? Yeah, in Montauk. Yes.
European Video Summit. So where are you located in general? Like, where do you live?
I am just outside Chicago in the suburbs in Woodstock. If you've
Hey.
ever seen Groundhog Day in the Punxsutawney, that's where I'm located.
Very cool. And so I'm assuming you're pretty cold today.
It is. We had a nice snowstorm today and yesterday. So my kids are super excited that we finally have snow.
Wow. Well, being in Newport Beach in California, not so much, but
I'm jealous. I'm super jealous.
Although it's nice to have that one snowstorm, then you're kind of done, but just that when it first lands.
As long as you don't have to go anywhere, you can appreciate it inside.
My definite is I am not ever going to be in the snow where I have to dig out a car. You know, like so if I were to go back to the East Coast, because I've been fairly bi-coastal, I would need some sort of garage or like no parking on the street for me or in the driveway. So
that's the beauty of the suburbs.
Yes, definitely. But anyway, just I want to something that as I always say, I do my snooping and find out things about you. But one of the things which really I found out about you was during our interview is the transformation that Kimberly Clark just went through. You were a 150-year-old, just turned that up. And so you went through a major transformation, which was awesome, and did a great Q&A with me. But I want to ask you about your own transformation. Has there been, like, if you would suddenly run into someone, maybe you haven't seen for like 10, 20 years, what would be the one thing that they would really notice, or you think they would notice about you that's really changed since when you first started? I don't mean your career, obviously you're at a much higher level and all of that, in general and meeting you.
Yeah, I think from 20, even 10 years ago, I think I have a much more sense of confidence and self-confidence that's come from gaining different experiences, not just in my career, but in life. Mm-hmm. I think I carry myself with more confidence. 10 to 20 years ago, I was a bit more, I think, insecure, whether it showed or not. And I think you carry yourself differently when you have that sense of self-confidence. And I think that comes through now more than it did maybe 10 to 20 years ago. I know what I bring to the table. I am comfortable in my skin and the value that I bring. And I think what people say about you or around you matters a little bit less, because I think I'm a little bit more comfortable in who I am today than I was then.
Well, and I'm curious in the sense of having that confidence now. And obviously, as you said, it's through not only work experience, but life experience. But did you realize that you weren't being as confident as you should back then? And what do you think was maybe, I mean, obviously it's a series of events, but really, what did you notice maybe that made you sort of even almost say, screw this, I'm going to, know that this is good?
Yeah, I mean, I do think I always knew I was a little bit lacking in the confidence, and I don't think it showed always on the outside. I was an athlete in high school. I always had a lot of friends, but I think inside I was always wondering, like, am I good at this stuff? Like, I always had that little bit of self-doubt kind of niggling at me from the back that probably prevented me from being as confident as I would have liked to be. Mm-hmm. And I think over time, being able to take a few risks in my career and in my life allowed me to build up a bit more belief in myself and my abilities to accomplish things that maybe I didn't think I could, or maybe didn't believe enough in myself, or even maybe think I had the support system to deliver. I think I surprised myself a few times, and that built some confidence. And I think I exceeded my expectations in a few instances, which even built it more. There were a few career risks that I took. I know I mentioned this to you when we were talking in Montauk, but I spent 15 years of my career with one agency, and I grew up there. I felt like I had, built a lot of my reputation within that company, and I took a risk and left. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have to, but I really wanted to try something new and different, and it was hard. And I learned tons of valuable experience in that change in my career. And I think it helped me grow a lot, and it built my confidence. It wasn't always easy, and there were really hard days, but I think I came out of it stronger and better for it.
Well, and I think that's a key point in terms of, well, I think you said two, well, you said a few, but one that I noticed early on was you said you don't necessarily think people noticed that you were insecure. And I think, we tend to do that, it's inside, maybe internally, but we could come across and everyone's like, oh, you were the most confident person. It's like, no, I was really freaking out. But
Yeah.
so combination of that and then willing to take the risk. I mean, it's almost like you have to test yourself to, again, maybe prove to yourself that you are actually valuable and, can do things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is sometimes a misperception. I think people sometimes can appear, myself included, to have it all together on the outside when really everything is going crazy in the background. I've actually heard that from people of, you always seem like you have it together. Like it doesn't seem like there's any chaos. And I feel like I step away and like everything is chaos. If I'm not dropping a ball here, I'm dropping one there. And it's constantly a juggling act. So I'm impressed that it comes across as, being easy or together. But I feel like sometimes that might be a facade that comes through because I think I have to work super hard, at trying to deliver what I need to deliver, at work, and then also be, the other roles that I have at home as a good wife and a mother.
But I'm curious, because when you said that, it made me think of, I've definitely had those moments where run into someone I haven't seen, hey, how are things going? And I'm honest, I say how things are going, and maybe things are not great or even crappy. And as I'm leaving them, they're like, well, I'm glad things are going so well, and I'm like, seriously? Like, it's not, I didn't lie, but I think that facade, and I don't even intentionally do it, that I think of, that I'm knowing that.
Yeah.
You feel like that's part of your, maybe even your success, is that you're able to kind of do that and sort of like, what do they say, fake it till you make it kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do that. I think we all do that in our lives to a certain extent of, just doing the best that you can with what you've got around you. And I think one of the things I've learned along the way is that it's okay to ask for help, and you do have to rely on others to be able to be successful. And some of it is faking it till you make it. Some of it's developing some belief in yourself and learning how to rely on other people.
Yeah, no, I think that's very key. Well, and I'm talking about relying and not maybe following up with exactly what you've been saying, but just if you were to run into your 20 year ago, like when you were just getting out of college, your younger self, what would be, and maybe it's looking at, again, aside, we've talked about the confidence side, but anything else, that advice you might have given to yourself back then that might have made things easier along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think just letting some of the small stuff go. I think things that felt so big and overwhelming then were really not that big of a deal. Like letting it go. I think probably the second thing I would say is everybody else feels the same way. I think I felt like it was just me. Like I'm the only one that feels this way. Everybody else seems like they're doing so well. But as I've gotten older and moved through my career and had more conversations with, professionals that have gone through similar paths or listened to other people talk, they've all felt that way at some point in their life or in their career. And so I think it would have been nice to know at that age and at that point, everybody else is feeling exactly the way that you are and going through the exact same thing.
Don't feel so alone. Yeah, no, I definitely get it. Well, and you mentioned in your, a little bit saying how you just left the company that you've been with, the agency that you've been with 15 years. Prior to that, you were with agency. I think you were agency side 21 years.
Yeah.
Moving over to Kimberly Clark.
Yeah.
So talk about that. And again, let's go back to your younger self and the path that you came and created for yourself. One, did you foresee it when you were first, graduating? Is this what you envisioned, or how did it, maybe evolve?
Yeah, I mean, I think I might be an oddity in that I knew when I went to college that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in advertising. The inspiration for it is a little embarrassing. I'm a 90s baby. I watched Melrose Place and was so fascinated by the advertising agency. And I really, really wanted to be part of something that was tied to pop culture and how it shaped the world around us. And I went in knowing I wanted to come out and do advertising. What part I didn't know. I wasn't super creative, so I knew I wasn't going to be making the ads, but I wanted to be in the business. And I actually think media was like last on my list.
Really?
And somehow I ended up exploring this sort of career path. Coming out of school, I had accepted a job. I got really nervous and I accepted the first job that was offered to me. And it was in radio sales, which was not at all what I wanted to be doing. But all my finance friends were getting jobs and I started to freak out that I wasn't going to get a job. And so I accepted the job. And literally the week after I took that job, the job I really wanted called me and offered me the position. It was at a full service ad agency in Chicago. I had already verbally accepted the other offer, and I sat down with my dad and said, what do I do? I just gave my word, which he told me and had always taught me was binding and all you really have.
Yeah.
And this is my job that I want, but I've already said I would take this other job. And he actually had a really honest moment with me and said, this is the rest of your life. Like, you have to decide what's going to make you happy and follow that. You do have to, you know, put your big girl pants on and call the other company and tell them that you've decided to do something else. So that's what I did. I called the company and I let them know that I had gotten another offer and it was a position I was really excited about. And I took a leap and took the job that I really wanted, and it ended up working out, and it put me on the path of media at a full service agency and led me to the career that I'm in today. And I think I look back on that, and that was sort of a pivotal moment. I think that I didn't really realize the choice that I was making, but it was the right choice for me. It was definitely hard, but I don't regret the decision.
And it's funny, and you can, I mean, I hate saying this, but I feel like because you're a woman, you maybe had that second thought of not taking the job you love because you promised it. And I feel like it's not always the same. And I'm not, I mean, I do hate to stereotype, but I feel like I'm always saying that. So obviously I am stereotyping, but I feel like women don't want to make people feel bad. You know, like you want to just like protect everyone, and, you know, you want to like, you know, oh, I feel bad, but this, like we kind of pepper things that way. Do you feel like that's maybe something that you've had to work through? And obviously that was a first big step for you to do that.
Yeah, I feel like I work on this a lot, and I read some articles and read some things on this about like women are always apologizing for things, even in the workplace, and our counterparts, you know, don't always do that. You know, they go after what they want. They're not apologetic about it. They don't apologize for being opinionated. They don't apologize for being vocal. And they don't apologize for aggressively going after the career path that they want or the positions that they want. And I feel like sometimes, you know, as a female in the industry, I have found myself apologizing for that or feeling bad that I got something over somebody else instead of feeling pride in the fact that I had earned it. And that I deserved to be here. And I think that's something I'm constantly working on overcoming, and making sure that I give myself the credit that I think I deserve and that others deserve around me for doing the things that we need to get to where we are today, especially other women. And I definitely want to, you know, pay that forward to some of the other younger women that are coming up in the industry. I've managed some big teams, and I always try, you know, to ensure that I'm kind of helping some of the other women along, not just the women, but the men on the team as well. I think everybody has their own career struggles and their own path that they need to walk, but definitely find myself apologizing more than I probably need to or should. And I think it's going to always be something I need to work on.
Yeah. And I've probably read those same articles because I've tried to take I'm sorry out of, like, reread it. Okay, take it out. And it's hard for me. And it's not a big, like, I'm like, you know, because it might be something little. I'm not saying, oh, I'm sorry I got this job, or I'm sorry, but might be, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you so soon. Whereas, why did I need to? Unless it was a boss, or unless there was whatever, like, but I always feel like I have to do that. And part of me is like, it's a nicety, you know what I mean? Like, what's wrong with doing that? But then the other part, which is I think where the article is coming from, it's a weakness. So I don't know which balance is right and wrong. But maybe, like you said, it's just being proud of what you are doing and being, you know, able to just keep moving forward.
I think it's about a mindfulness too. Like, to your point, I have found myself typing that in emails every now and then. And I'm like, am I sorry that I'm late? The truth is I was really busy, like working on something else. So sometimes I'm just going to be honest and be like, hey, got caught up. Like, good to hear from you, getting back to you now. And, you know, letting people know that they're important, but without like compromising the value of other things that you're doing.
Yeah, no, and don't put it on yourself, you know, put it like you said, like, I need to write that down. So, hey, it's been crazy. Just getting back to you now. What's up? Like, instead of, I'm
not really sorry. Like, I was really busy.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I have to work on that. I realize that a lot. And I like I said, I'll even, you know, delete it. And then I put it back in. Like, it's like, it seems nicer. It's like, I want like like even like texting, I want to make sure, can I put the smiley face? You know, like I want people to know I'm saying it in a nice way, not a stern way.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I think there is a trick though to making sure you're still true to who you are and keeping your moral compass, you know, and being considerate to other people. And I think you can do that without apologizing, but I always try to treat people how I want to be treated. And I think sometimes that can be a lost art when you're interacting with other people, especially as we've gone virtual and remote and rely so much on written or IM. So I do try to be, without apologizing too much, be treating other people the way I would want to be treated.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, because when it's face to face, you know, they know what you're thinking,
Yeah.
you know what they're thinking. There's not that miscommunication. I mean, not that there's none, but in general, you're seeing it. When you can write things that saying it sounds nice, reading it sounds really, you know, curt or mean or whatever, like, or whatever it may be. So I do think it makes it a little bit more difficult to navigate. But what about in terms of, I mean, we've definitely talked a lot of challenges, but has there been a particular challenge in your career? Maybe even you thought that I can't do anymore, or this is it, or whatever it may be that you had to really overcome and then, you know, push forward, and that you were able to get through it.
Yeah, I mean, there is a moment in my career where I took a step back and was like, can I keep doing this? And I was at a new position in a company, and I had probably been there like 8 months, and I got my first performance review. And up until this point, like, I had been a star performer, like doing really well, like never had a bad performance review. And this, like, overall the score wasn't bad, but it had verbatims in it. And I was a new team leader, and I was really trying to do a good job. And some of the verbatims were like gut wrenching. Like, it was clear I wasn't doing as good of a job as I thought. I wasn't leading the team as an effective way. It was some of the harshest feedback I had ever gotten. Wow. And I really was like gutted by it. And I had to take a step back and think, okay, like, am I as good of a leader as I thought I was? Like, was this the right move for me? I'm 8 months into this new job. Here's the feedback I'm getting. And I was so upset about it. I came home and I was like in tears, and I had to think, how am I going to do this? And do I want to keep doing this? Like, do I need to find another job? And I will say it unlocked the best thing I think that's ever happened to me. I was offered executive coaching, and not just from that evaluation, but to help my career grow and to help me as a leader. The company invested in me because they saw potential. Mm-hmm. And I got really great advice from the coach that I was working with. And she said, some of that is good constructive criticism, like sit and reflect on it and think about what could you do better, which is fair, and mm-hmm. what performance evaluations are meant to do. And some of it, and I apologize for the expletive, but she's like, some of it's other people's shit, and you just have to leave it there and then forget about it, because it's baggage they're carrying and not stuff you need to pick up. And so I had to read, and I went back and reread it through with that sort of lens on it. And I was like, you know what, some of this is fair, and it's going to make me a better person and a leader. And some of it, see it, leave it, and then I'm going to move on. And I think getting the coaching to go along with some of that helped me actually be a much better leader. It unlocked so much potential in me and different things in me. It made me a more empathetic leader. And it made me realize that some of the things that I do in terms of words and management style have to be less about me and more about the people around me and how they perceive things to be happening.
Okay. And I want to kind of follow up with that in terms of the coaching. Like, you're saying how it made you, I mean, one, the constructive criticism, as hard as it is to get, I definitely agree. Once you get over that, it can be helpful if you take it to heart. But also, what did she, because, you know, you come across as a really empathetic, really, you know, and maybe this is thanks to the coach, maybe, you know, 10 years or whatever ago. But what was the best advice she gave you, I guess, in terms of, and making you better?
Some of it was about being kind to myself, and giving myself some credit where credit is deserved, instead of always looking for the bad. So I read that review, and every single bad thing stuck out to me. And she said, go back and read that review. Where are all the good things? She made me sit in the room and read it with her and said, you point out all the good things in there. And what I realized is I am my harshest critic. I jumped right to all the things that I needed to fix and improve to be better, instead of, okay, well, what am I doing well? And how is that balanced? So I think she taught me to give myself some forgiveness and grace, that I'm going to make mistakes, and that there's some good in all of that too. So I think that's the nicest thing she did for me, is making me reread it with a different lens on the value in there. And then she was like, we'll go back to the constructive feedback so that you can see that there are things you can improve on, but there's things you're doing really well. And I completely missed that the first time I read it.
Well, and the thing is, I mean, you got the job, you're still,
Right.
you're not fired,
Right.
I'm sure there was maybe a raise or something that went with the, whatever, like all of the above, but
Right.
you're again, focusing on what you did wrong, or,
Right.
what you perceived as wrong. So,
Right.
yeah, no, and I definitely, that is a valuable lesson to learn. Do you feel like you're able to keep that with you as you've moved forward in your career?
Yeah, I think so. I think it takes, like, again, mindfulness to make sure that you do that, because, I feel like my career is part of how I define myself, and I definitely want to be successful, and I love it. I love the work. I love talking about it. I love being engaged in it, but, and I always want to get better. But I definitely think I've got to take a moment and celebrate the successes that come along also with the learning and the constructive criticisms to get better. I think they should be equally weighted. And sometimes I'm always eager to learn and improve. So I look for the negatives instead of the positive.
Yeah. Well, I think that's definitely something we all need to do more of. I have to ask you, speaking of positive, talk about your guilty pleasure. What is your one thing you kind of go to and it's like, oh, I need to just do this and I know it's bad for me, or maybe don't let anyone see or don't admit to it, but your one guilty pleasure.
Oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing, and I can't believe I'm going to say it and let everybody see it. I read like trashy romance novels. Like, it is like a super escape for me. They have to have a good plot, and there has to be like a storyline, but I love the escape. I don't have to, my mind doesn't have to work. I can just get lost in somebody else's life that is not mine, and I can completely relax. I have read them for years, and I was super happy when Kindles were invented so nobody could see my book covers. But it is a guilty pleasure. I will sneak away and read books, and I'd rather read than watch TV.
Yeah. The book covers, were they the ones with like the guy with the shirt half off?
Yeah, some of them.
Long hair, flowing.
Some of them. They're just so entertaining and mindless. I think with all the stress that we have in some of our day-to-day lives and some of the, run pressures that we're under, it's really nice to just escape into something silly and, fun to read.
I like that. I do like romance, but more the mystery, not, mystery romance, like J.D. Robb, I believe. I
read those. Those are good.
Yeah, like we used to, like, it would be funny. We got my nephew into it, and we'd be all like talking about it, and we wanted to make a series out of it. We're like, we could make a movie, with.
I know.
The guy was Rourke, and I forget her name, but anyway, but like those kind of things where you just, can, like you said, you can escape. But I do like a little bit more like a murder or a mystery or something, rather than just, every other, and he opened her blouse and then she.
Oh yeah. No, I'm probably not that far, but like it's super fun now to see some of those become like Netflix series. So some of the books that you read are starting to become like little Netflix series. So my guilty pleasure is definitely reading, and it's not intellectual reads at all.
I actually love reading. I'm glad about Kindle, because I have to wear my glasses to see things close. And so by the time I'm done with work, I don't want to be wearing my glasses. So now with Kindle, I mean, my writing is like, it's like huge, but I don't have to wear the glasses. Like I can blow it up. So then that's what made me, because I started reading for a while. I stopped reading for people. Like laugh when they see my, like when I feel like your text, they'll be like, oh my God. It's just like, so but so I appreciate Kindle for that reason. Well, I have not that, but I use my my MacBook. But so anyway, well, all right, I have to ask you, as I mentioned earlier, and I always say I do my snooping, and saw when you took this position at Kimberly Clark, you talked about how you had a lot of successful experience onboarding. And so and actually, I had to look that up. Those who don't know onboarding, which may be because I'm more of a journalist than a marketer, or maybe just I'm dumb, I don't know which, but the bringing on hiring people. Yeah. Tell me about, and in general, like obviously you hire for so many different positions, different types, every position needs their own, skill set. But is there a quality or something that you have seen that's the common denominator from what you're looking for a successful candidate? And maybe it's even something that you didn't realize when you're doing it. You look back, you can kind of see, hey, they all had maybe this one or two things in common.
Yeah. And I honestly, I don't think I realized it until I started working at Kimberly Clark, like what that was. And they use a common language here. And I'm sure people are familiar with it and they use it other places, but that growth versus fixed mindset. And I think it was a really unconscious thing for me. I wasn't always looking, and I still don't always look for like the technical media skills or the other skills that are teachable, I guess. What I look for a lot are the aptitude to learn, the willingness to take risks, the thinking outside the box. Are you willing to try something new? Because I think that speaks to learning agility. Like, have you done something and it failed and you learned from it? Yeah. Because I believe that you can teach people some of the basics and foundations of the jobs that we do, as long as people are willing to learn and take risks and try. And I feel like it's helped find some really good talent. And I feel like I've had the really good fortune to work with some really smart people. But I don't think it really struck me that that's kind of what I had been doing until I got to Kimberly Clark. And I was like, oh, I've hired a lot of people who think that way, that might not have actually had the exact skills match for the positions, but had like a certain way of thinking and going about doing things.
So someone interviewing with you, they're coming on board.
Yeah.
Should they, because I think when I've had this conversation with others before, that sometimes if you don't check all the boxes, you're not going to go for the position, especially women tend to just not do that. So I'm watching you now and I want to work at Kimberly Clark. What do I need to know to come in? Do I need to check all the boxes, or what's more important for me to come in with?
No, I don't think people need to check all the boxes at all. I think it's giving tangible examples of where you've been able to make impact, showing how you can work with others, demonstrating learning agility, and being able to put like thoughts and thinking into actual action. I think that is what we're looking for most. I think we can teach skills. You have to have some foundational knowledge, like that's absolutely helpful, but no, I don't think you have to check all the boxes at all. In fact, I've interviewed people who check all the boxes and I'm like, they can't speak to this in a plain way that makes it simple for people to understand. Like, that introduces more complexity into the organization and we need simplicity. So like, even though they check all the technical boxes, like we can't do that. So I actually think the opposite. I think go for it and, convince people that you're the right person for the job. And that's usually something I think that works, not just on me, but I think on others based on how we are looking at talent and trying to attract talent.
I always think, and this is sort of was my mindset since like I was in high school looking for a job, I would think in my head, okay, I'm great for you. What can you do for me? And it's not that I would, not that I'm telling them, obviously I want the job and whatever it may be, but I always kind of try to go in that way and thinking like, okay, you come in with a better, I don't know. I think just maybe the attitude helps, but I just felt like that seemed to work for me. And you just get so secure with what they're looking for, and I can do all this, and it's maybe not checking the boxes, but just the other stuff you'll be good for them.
Yeah, I think that's true too. And I also think, some of the advice that I've given to some of the friends that I have that have kids in college that I've been talking to as they come out is, you should be interviewing us as much as we're interviewing you to make sure that it's a good fit for you. Understanding the culture, the expectations of the position, job specs tell you one thing, but really getting the people in front of you who are doing the hiring are going to be able to explain to you exactly what the day-to-day will look like, exactly who you're going to be working with, what they're like, getting a sense of the company culture. It's huge. And I think sometimes we get in this rush of like, I want this job or I need this job. And we forget that we should be looking at the company to see if it's the right place for you and whether you feel like you're going to be set up for success in that position, in that role.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely good advice. Well, all right, I want to ask you, what is the best spur of the moment thing that you bought ever? Doesn't matter, just something that you splurged on, you bought it spur of the moment, and I guess maybe it could be the best, or it could be it was a fail, but you're still happy you did it.
Oh gosh, it would probably be a toss-up, but I think I bought a new car not that long ago. It wasn't spur of the moment because I had been wanting it, but it is a completely illogical purchase for me. I got a Range Rover, which I absolutely adore and love and have been wanting for like years. After driving my car into the ground, I think it was like 12 years old, my previous car. It was as old as my oldest son, who's 14. So I guess it was almost 14. And so I got this Range Rover, but I have 3 boys who are all going to be teenagers. One's 14, one's 12, one's 9, all in sports activities, all with friends. And there is not enough room in this car for everybody. So we're finding that when we go to things and they want to bring a friend, we have to take 2 cars. So it's completely illogical, but I love it, but I think I might have to get rid of it, which makes me super sad, but it does not fit our lifestyle at all.
It could work it, then you just never have to be the mom driving.
I know. Well, actually, my oldest son is trying to convince me to keep it so that he can drive it when he turns 16, which I said, absolutely not. You're crazy.
I was actually thought you might be going there when you first started.
No.
Right, I want to add to that now. What's the best spur of the moment decision you've made? Just something you just said, yes, I'm going to do it. And no regret.
I would have to say taking this job. I would have to say taking this job.
Yeah.
It was the best decision I've made. I'm super happy. I love it. I love the people. I love the culture. I know that sounds cliche, but I think sometimes you do make decisions to make career changes and you get into it and you're like, that was not the one for me. And I have no regrets. I'm enjoying this. I love it. I'm learning and I'm surrounded by really smart people. So I have no regrets.
And you get to meet me and speak at our Medium Host Summit.
I did, which was great. I was super nervous, but it was wonderful.
Oh, it was definitely, you were great. So, well, Stacie, thank you so much. It was so great to get to know this side of you and get away from just talking about your wonderful brand, but I love getting to know you as a person better. So thank you very much.
Thank you. You too. It was good to see you.
Good to see you. And thank you for watching. As I always say, I'd love to hear who you want me to try to talk to. If you have a suggestion, please let me know and I will do my best. Thanks again. And thanks, Stacie.
Thanks, Lisa.